Welcome to the SandMPodcast with Sean Spencer and Misti Spencer. Real talk with real people, discussing some serious and not so serious hot topics. Let's talk.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the S&M Podcast. I am Sean Spencer.
And I am Misti Spencer.
And we go by S&M a lot.
Yeah. A
little,
much. A lot.
A lot.
Sometimes, I don't know.
Yeah. Hey, I'd like to thank each and every one of you who have followed us on all of the social media, listening to and watching our video podcast and streaming on all platforms, basically.
Yes. We are so thankful for all of the support. And when we see people out, your feedback, where you're watching us, in your living rooms or couples in bed together in the morning, just kind of learning a little bit. And again, not everything we say is the end all, say all. We're not doctors,
Nope.
But we do appreciate you guys so much for bringing us into your lives.
Yeah, and appreciate you guys sharing our podcast with your friends who may not know us. And bigger the reach, the better.
Yeah.
Just gotta help one person at a time.
That's right.
So today, episode 6.
Ooh.
Can you believe it already?
I can.
Time has just flown by for me.
Man, for me, it took so long to get here because I had this on my brain for so long, and to finally be here, I'm like, finally, episode 6. Yeah. For me, time is not going by fast enough, but I know that if you go too fast with something like this, it won't be what you want. Yeah. And I also know it needs to grow and develop.
So we balance.
Yeah, a little bit. Sometimes we do. No, we are.
Kind of cool.
We are literally yin and yang. So that's just the way it is. More on that later.
Yes. So today's episode 6, it is called The Fall from Alcohol.
It is.
Yes.
It is called
The Fall from Alcohol. Who wants to talk about that?
Oof. Well, it could be a literal fall.
That's true.
I'm a literal person, and when I named the episode, I was like, "Ooh, they're gonna think like it's about a fall because it just talked about getting hit by a truck." So and he's like, "No, they'll know it's like the fall from grace. It's the fall from out." Well, my literal butt was like, "Well, I still think it's cute. It's about a fall. It's not about a fall, although there were many falls as a result of alcohol.
Certainly.
Over the course of my lifetime. Yeah. How about you? I've partied with you before.
Yeah, there have been a few falls.
Yeah.
There have been a few falls. Yeah.
I mean, and this episode is not intended to tell anybody what they should or should not do in their own lives. I want to preface that before I start talking about my experience. I've sat on this a very long time. I haven't talked about reasons so much or even anything that I've done, when, how, why. Right. And that's because I'm very private and it was very personal. However, I think it's so important that all of us, anybody, show that there's another way to live when you feel stuck in something. And so it's not a matter of you change your life, stop drinking alcohol, because that's what I did. This is about if there is something that has some sort of control that is harmful, I don't care what it is. It could be writing too much, drawing too much, drinking too much, drugging too much. There's so many extremes no matter what you do. This is about when that takes hold and what happens, So I was going to start by saying I grew up with alcohol around me, but I think almost everybody
since Prohibition
literally everybody grew up around alcohol. It's kind of a common thing unless you live in a certain kind of family
or a place that's
a
dry county or city.
Yeah, and there are places in our society and in other cultures that drinking is not part of their normal life.
Right.
But as a city-based kind of American, you know, I was born in Miami and I've lived in Orlando a long time, almost 30 years. I grew up just around alcohol. You too.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. Always around.
Part of the family parties, part of the get-togethers. And unfortunately, as time went on, for me, I got to see the negative effects of that constant partying on my family.
How old do you think you were when you first noticed?
Oof. I don't know that I first noticed issues with alcohol until my 20s. I really didn't recognize. I don't know if that's my decision making, my autism, or the normalization of alcohol in my family.
Was it because what you saw growing up was normalized, that's what you thought everybody did, and so that's how you went into that direction of normalization?
I did. I actually thought it was kind of your rite of passage. You know, you become 13 and your grandma slips you a shot, or, you know, in our house, it was like a sip of a daiquiri. It wasn't anything terrible. It was like getting a drop of wine at the dinner table. Sure. It's very normal. Yeah, nobody was shoving liquor down my throat. Nobody was saying, come on, kid. But I had like those moments of rite of passage. When I turned 18, I was allowed to have a glass of wine at my house. Sure. And I really didn't start drinking, even with my parents, till I was 21. Yeah. They didn't really normalize for me partying with them ever. Whatever they did, it really was theirs, which I appreciate very much. So I really didn't see it till I was much older. And I become more aware of my surroundings, and I had a child. There you go. You know, probably not until I had a child.
Yeah.
And I had my first child when I was 24. So that's probably the big epiphany. Like, somebody depends on me. Yeah. I better figure life out somehow.
Yeah, I think it's fairly normal when you have a child that you start evaluating certain things in your life that may be harmful to yourself and your ability to be there for the child.
Yeah.
Or harmful to the child, you know, itself.
Absolutely. And, you know, I partied like a lot of the college kids. I drank a little bit in high school, but not much. It wasn't really a huge part of my high school life. I didn't seek it. And then when I went to college, it wasn't something that it was irresistible to me. I could leave it. I had fun. It helped me get out of my bubble. But I smoked more pot. You know, that was more of my mindset. I was just a pot smoker while others were drinkers. And then I got into my 30s and it started becoming more... It was easier to drink just sitting around the house because we had kids. So on the weekends, you know, the kids go to bed or whatever. And it was like, hey, you want to go have a couple drinks on the porch?
Sure.
You know, or something like that. Or let's play Guitar Hero.
Or have a porch party.
Or have porch parties, which we had a lot of. A lot of us were raising kids, but we weren't doing anything that was so off the chart or crazy that it was hurting our kids, not directly. Indirectly, sure. I'll give you that all day and night. But we all helped with each other's kids. Nobody was passed out. Nobody was too much. In our 30s, drinking was just kind of part of our lives, but not an integral part of our lives.
I think we kind of paired it with certain events and gatherings and whatnot.
Right.
And certainly, you know, when it was just you and I think we did a pretty good job at pairing it with just about everything. Yeah,
I mean, well, we played games. We did all of that, and I believe that in some instances it was okay. In many instances, our fights only happened when there was alcohol involved.
Oh, sure.
We didn't fight normally. It wasn't part of who we were. We understood each other very well, and we communicated pretty well at that time, but not superb. And then alcohol, oof, you throw alcohol in there, and we were a disaster. A lot.
Gasoline.
Oh man, it really was. It was really, really tough. Then fast forward, we go into our 40s, and our kids, sorry, I have a hair in my mouth. Got to get that out of there. There you go, podcast community. That's for you.
Little tidbit.
It's driving me nuts. All right, we're over that hump.
Things I do not have issues with.
No, he doesn't. Unless it like sneaks up from your chin. I don't know if that ever happens. That'd be weird.
No sneaking in there. No.
If you're not looking and you've never met Sean, he has like a little goatee. And it's not a goatee. I don't know what it's called. It's
called many things that I won't really.
Right now. There's no, we won't.
You all know.
Save that for S&M After Dark. So now I'm even lost where I'm at. So fast forward, we're in our 40s. And it started becoming, a weird space for me because I had more free time. My children were growing up, and they started driving, and they started hanging out with other people. And
they weren't home as much in general.
Right. They were doing and at different times because they have, 5 years between them. But as one kind of went off and was doing their own thing, the other one was not around as much, or we weren't around as much, whatever the case was. And my drinking started picking up significantly at that point. I had experienced a lot of death and didn't know how to cope with it, and experiencing alcoholism all around us. It was like we were being surrounded by alcoholism at the time. And I dealt with other people's alcoholism by drinking alcohol.
I think we all kind of did that, not to take it all the way back, but, we had an alcohol-less wedding.
Oh, man, I forgot about that. We were so surrounded by alcohol. We were like, you know what? I don't feel like dealing with alcoholism at our wedding.
No. We were too good for that.
Well, for us, it was just like,
and here we are.
We were different. We had one little one, and then we were getting married. We were not big, huge drinkers. We were like one night a week. I didn't drink at home ever. Neither did you. But that was never really your thing.
Never.
You were never a home drinker. I had said it before. COVID took me out. COVID took me out.
I remember the trips to the liquor store.
Oh,
remember that?
Man.
We'd both have to go because we couldn't carry all of it by ourselves.
No. And if we did, we got boxes, and it was like we were planning for an apocalypse and zombies were going to be coming, and we better lock down.
Forget the bullets.
I was excited. No, alcohol and cookies. I literally, I baked a lot. I cooked a lot, did a lot of puzzling. I did everything in my power to not day drink during COVID. But after a while, a really extroverted human like me, who is in a house of the same 3 people day in and day out, and I was a realtor, there was no work going on. I was like, I literally am going to die. So I turned to alcohol instead,
Yeah.
And it was a struggle. I did start working as a behavioral therapist, and that helped extraordinarily.
Sure.
But that little bit of time that we had off of work, it wasn't months for us, because I went and worked as a therapist right away. But that little bit of time, it really ushered in some patterns for me that I didn't realize were becoming such an issue. I didn't realize, even though we were vocal about it, you would tell me,
sure,
you would mention, but then I would counter it, or you would have a night that alcohol got the best of you, and it negated anything I've ever done. that kind of, we started getting into that cycle of who's the worst. who can be the worst out of this? And it did.
Yeah, I don't know that anyone won. I think we both looked at it as kind of atrocious.
Oh, yes. Yes. And it just for me, it got worse because everyone else around me didn't really see the truth. They didn't see what alcohol was really doing to me because people enjoyed me drinking. They liked the laughter. They liked my wildness.
Sure.
And there's aspects of me that are great drinking, but they weren't the ones that had to deal with the aftermath.
Sure.
And the meltdowns and the inability to gauge myself or my drinking. The constant fluctuations, metabolism, weight, hormones. I'm a female. Like, you throw everything in there. And I just became like one big walking hypocrisy, at least to myself, you know, and I think to us, because I was telling you what you should be doing to help our relationship. And at the same time, I wasn't doing any of it.
I think we're both guilty as charged on that one. Yeah, working things out while you're intoxicated never works.
Boy, did we try.
We really wanted to make that work.
We tried so hard to keep alcohol in our lives. We really did. And then I started my journey.
I was going to say, when did you have an aha moment? Was it an event that occurred or a feeling that you just had at 1 second and you go, this has got to change now?
That went...
Or was it a culmination of things?
Oh, it was a culmination. It started out with a little like, am I an alcoholic tests, on Facebook. It started there. And then, happenings in my life that were proving to me that I was not a good drinker. I don't know that I don't know what that is. Yeah. But for me, I was becoming worse and worse. I knew that it was becoming problematic because I started doing it so much by myself, and it became my partner. I got more and more comfortable being outside on the porch, by myself, and sometimes on Zoom and, let's talk, all the different things with my friends. We're all doing this. It became normalized. Yeah. It was just all of us doing it. The difference is I stayed out there, and then I'd come wandering in at some point, and we were so disconnected and disengaged. We're texting each other from other rooms.
I think we were disengaged, not disconnected.
No, yeah, disengaged. And you wanted to give me that space because, my mom had just died recently. And after that happened, which I handled my mom's death drunk, like just the whole time. I just, that's how I handled it. And then after that, it got worse and worse in some aspects, but I managed it fine. I never got in trouble at work. I never drank during the day. Right. It never got there. And then our child got sick, and something happened in my brain that said, this is your chance. This is your chance to change your life. And your kid needs you. Both your kids need you. You're not doing the right things by them. You're not a good role model. And for some reason that day, and it was July 5th of last year, that day, everything I'd ever done flooded me. All the hiding, all the lies, or the manipulations of the truth. No, I only had 2 instead of 4 or 6 or 8 or, all the things I was telling our children not to do, I was doing. I was a terrible role model. And for some reason, that day, it was like lightning. zapped through my body. And I went, okay, this is my chance, I guess. I'll listen, because when our children are sick or not feeling well, I don't do anything. I refrain. And I hadn't done that in a while. And so it was like, all right, let's see how this works out. And 3 days became 5, and 5 became 12, and 12 became 21. Mm-hmm. And I did it. And I didn't go back until.
I think if you're, if you're a parent out there and you have little kids or even adult kids, young adult kids, whenever they get sick, it's horrible for everyone as a parent. And, being a good role model goes beyond just being their parent and teaching them right from wrong and whatnot. I think you really have to kind of live that role.
You do.
Instead of preach that role.
Yep.
Kids today have access to more information than they ever have at their fingertips, in amounts that are so vast.
Yes.
That they're becoming smarter and smarter at a younger age.
It's my favorite generation.
Yeah.
I've said it and I'll say it again. And one day we're going to have a debate about this on our podcast. I think these 18 to 25, 18, not that every generation isn't great. Mm-hmm. You know me. I love everybody. But I am in love with this young 20-something, late teens. Mm-hmm. What a generation that's coming. Man, you guys are smart. Keep being smart and stop listening to people telling you you're not. Exactly. Be sensitive and be smart. All right, I'm going to get off my soapbox. I think they're just a fabulous generation. They're actually one of the reasons I saw myself. Man, I'm glad you said that. My friends, when I became a behavioral therapist, I worked with predominantly 20-somethings. And teenagers. They're young people in this industry because they're the only ones who can physically do it.
Meaning
and mentally
they were employees. You weren't working with them in a
yes, they are employees.
From a technical sense, they were working beside you.
Yes, these are my peers, but I'm older than a lot of their parents. I'm their parents' age, but I'm young-minded and all of that. And I was a lead and trained and coached, and I loved these people. I love you guys, all of you. RBTs are life. They're just such beautiful human beings. And so I meet this group of people, and they are telling me everything that's wrong with their parents. Every abuse, every trauma. They're being so sensitive and honest, and they're wearing their disorders and their issues, their PTSD, they're wearing it like armor, but they're wearing it with pride. Saying, look what's happened to us. Something has to happen differently, and we're not going to continue. And when I got to really be immersed in these people that were our children's age, man, did I get to see through their eyes all the damage that I had done. Now, nothing that my kids or our kids will say is, stuff that I can't come back from with them, right? Sure. It wasn't like the most terrible things on the planet, and I didn't abuse them and I didn't hit them, but indirectly what I had done was harmful in many instances. And I was able to see
the optics weren't that great, in other words.
They weren't. And these women and a few men in there were instrumental in me really hearing, listening to what we've done as a Generation Xers, what we've shown our kids, what we've ushered in, and then ours got sick, and it was a chance. So fast forward, we're going to get out of there. I did it, right? I didn't drink, and I was doing fine, and all of these things, and I wrestled, but I was like, man, this was easy. I got out of there. Ha, ha, ha. And then we went on an all-inclusive vacation to Mexico.
Oops.
Yeah.
And wow.
And amazing,
really
like the
was.
most amazing vacation. And I'm so glad everybody had the greatest time of their life. However, I had not had any alcohol since July 5th. We land in Mexico October 8th. And the panic and anxiety from the moment we got to the airport to go began building.
So this is an all-inclusive resort, so all the free food, flow of alcohol.
All the alcohol, the best alcohol, and the parties to do it. And I think this is wonderful and everybody should go. It's called Way Down Here in Mexico with Joe Bachman and friends. Madison Moon is going, and so is her friend Rain. And we'll be there too.
We will.
So we go to Mexico.
Better prepared, though.
Yes. I didn't have any proactive procedures in place.
No.
I had none. I thought I got out of there. Ha, ha, ha. And then I get to Mexico. We get off the airplane. I'm like, oh, my God. I actually think I said to you on the bus ride over there, I said something along the lines like, I think I'm drinking.
Yes. I think that happened actually a couple times, but I think somebody else on the bus kind of spearheaded some sort of statement that got Misti to say, that makes me want to drink, or I think I'm going to have a drink, or something like that.
I think I'm having, well, they all had margaritas, and margaritas are my favorite. Like, I love margaritas, but I have passed out from more margaritas than any human should be allowed through my whole life. But we all have these Cinco de Mayo stories, you know, but I'm a grown up and I go to Mexico and I'm like, I can have I
will say I'm very proud of you, though, for taking that step in July 5th to October, early October. You hadn't had a drink.
None.
And for me, that was a moment of, I wonder how long this is going to last. And it wasn't very long after that I said, okay, she's really doing this, and it's making me feel awkward.
It was weird.
It really was.
It was weird a little bit.
It felt weird. And I didn't quite know what to do with that. And so I just kind of sat in it for weeks and weeks. And I probably ordered fewer drinks when she wasn't drinking.
Yeah, you weren't drinking as frequent or as much. Yeah. And
come October, and I don't know if I'm drinking or not at this all-inclusive Mexican music festival.
For under $1,000 a person, $99 deposit gets you a reserve room today.
And there's not a bad room.
No, we keep repeating it because it's like the greatest vacation. I don't want anybody to be deterred.
No, not at all.
I want to tell them about the alcohol part just because it's there. It's real. It's a real part of life.
Yeah.
The buildup.
Yeah, and this is not a podcast trying to deter people from drinking. No. That's not it. What we're trying to tell you is live your life, but live your best life.
Yes.
The one that doesn't harm you or other people.
Yeah, this is about mindfulness. That's why I disclosed in the beginning. It doesn't matter what it is. Right. This is just my life experience. I'm no prophet. I'm just telling you what I've done to make it a little bit better for me, and I don't suffer.
Yes, my lady.
I don't suffer. So Mexico, we do that. And the first night I go in on the vodka. You know, I go in. Yeah. Guess what? I did fine. We didn't do anything crazy. We went back to our room like normal humans. Normal humans. We were done every night by 11 o'clock, right? But we had a great time.
Yeah.
We had a great time in the pool. I drank all night long. Didn't think twice about it. Handled myself just fine. Yeah. Did a foam party. By the way, one of my favorite things to do was the foam party. I remember all of it. I didn't come stumbling in. We ended our night beautifully. Crime and popcorn. That's how great nights end are with crime and popcorn. True crime. So it was a perfect night. Mm-hmm. And then the next day I felt, my body felt hungover. My brain felt like I couldn't think. The brain fog had all come rushing back in. And I was struggling with my emotional regulation.
Mm-hmm. Well, your insides were going, what the hell are you doing to us?
But it was like that before that. That was every weekend for me.
But it's different.
I forgot. I felt that way after every single weekend of my life as an adult, except for when I was pregnant. I went, oh, there you are again, old friend. I remember you. And then I didn't drink really. Like I would like have a little sip of whatever everybody was doing at the pool. But for the most part, I stayed in my lane.
Well, most people remember their first hangover, right?
Right.
Some people remember their last.
Well, that was not my last, but
but there is a last.
There was
for a lot
last.
of people.
No, I have a last now, but that night it was like, ugh, you know, or that day, and I had to kind of do things to get myself back to me, and I didn't like that so much. Right. But then, you know, wine with dinner, wine with this, wine with that, and I'm right back in my patterns. Not destructive to anyone. We didn't get in one fight. We didn't argue. Nope. Alcohol never got the best of us. Nope. We never hit that tilt, but my patterns were there. The exact same patterns. Who, where, what, how, and why. And all the memories of everything that I had done and what I had accomplished, all of that had hit me. Right. And then on the last day, we go to the airport. I didn't have one margarita in Mexico. Not one at this point. I barely drank in Mexico, let's be honest. I drank that first night. I didn't like it so much. And then I just had a little bit of wine here and there throughout. Sure. That last day, they're like, it's Mexico, and we're just going to have our last margarita. And I have the margarita in Mexico in the airport. Yeah. And it ate me alive. It crushed my soul.
This was an airport margarita. Strong.
Ooh. Oh my gosh. And we had done like the upgrade, and I don't even know what's in this. But as the day goes, and it goes fast, I go from 0 to like nothing so quickly. I resembled myself in a hot second. And it was because I had regulated the other alcohol. I made sure I was eating. I made sure I was regulating what I was drinking. I'm not normally that thoughtful in my play life. I don't like being on guard. I don't like being out and going, did I have 2 drinks? Did I have 5 drinks? Oh no, is that going to get the best of me? I worry too much on alcohol because I'm always worried about it getting me.
Sure.
And that day I had one. I drank half and it ate my soul. And then I go from 0 to intelligible on half a margarita. And then I just don't speak. Unintelligible. Thank you. Unintelligible.
Yeah. Well, that from my perspective.
Yeah. Right. I couldn't even emotionally regulate myself. I was angry at the world. Everything I had ever felt hit me. I felt this instant sadness, and I went, hello, old friend. I remember you too. And all the little friends that made me feel comfortable in my drinking kept wrapping back around in those days that I struggled. And that was my last drink, October 13th. And ironically, we spread my dad's ashes in Mexico. And I had said, all right, Daddy, I'll see you, because we used to say, see you in Mexico, Daddy-o. And I said my goodbyes. And then I went and had that drink, and I felt like I disappointed him. It was that's probably, I'm just developing this right now, why I was so sad. I wasn't necessarily sad at my inability to communicate effectively. I wasn't necessarily sad that I was having a meltdown again, and I hadn't had a meltdown in a very long time. I just felt so disappointed. But here's the moral, and we'll end with this. When I woke up the next day, I reflected, and I didn't say, well, it was Mexico and we're allowed to do what we want in Mexico. And I guess I was just sad, and I recognized, I stopped myself. And I said, no, remember your old friends. Remember that hangover. Remember that feeling of brain fog, not being able to do anything until you get that next shot, the hair of the dog. All those things. My old friend that I used to melt down with and then say, it was okay. because everyone would forgive me.
Mm-hmm.
All of that, I had to remind myself who I wanted to be for my children, because I wasn't a great role model in Mexico, who I wanted to be for my children and for my life. And that was an element that didn't work. There's so many alcohol stories, but everybody has them.
Sure.
For me, that was the one thing that I knew if it didn't stop now, it probably never would.
Yeah.
And I was given a chance to do it organically and naturally without real repercussions and suffering. Not everybody has that. And that's why I do what I do for a living now, is so that I can help people not suffer in the midst of it. So this story isn't about alcohol. This story is about suffering and the things that we do to ourselves when we're suffering, and how we can recognize those patterns and behaviors and change them.
Yep.
And so for me, since October 13th of 22, I haven't had anything to drink.
Which, congratulations.
Thank you. And I'm proud of it for me personally. But one day we'll talk about all the stuff that comes with it.
I'm just happy to talk about all the things that that you do and then you decide not to do because it betters you as a person. It helps you with a clearer mind. It helps you with less achy, body parts with a hangover. It helps you not to have to worry what kind of damage you did to anyone else, your children. You're responsible for yourself, and what you do to yourself is your business. But when you're talking about children, they don't have a choice. And I think ultimately, whether you're 22 and you've just been drinking for a year or two and you think you have a problem, or you're 42 or 52 or 72, I think if you think you have an issue
with anything,
whether it's alcohol, food addiction, drug addiction, sex
allergies,
addiction,
weight,
whatever it is that's affecting your body and your mind and your soul, do something. Do something.
And that is the moral of this story. I did one thing at a time. I did not try to conquer my impending alcoholism by doing all of it at one time. And it's something that I use in my coaching. And if anybody's interested, and I don't mean this for you have to buy this from me. If anybody's interested in my story and they want to know how or why or some of the details, I do use that in my life to help others better their lives and better themselves, because it isn't about the alcohol. It's not about the vice. It's about your behaviors, your patterns, and your tendencies. And the reason I'm so disciplined is because I refuse to suffer. I don't like suffering. I don't think anybody does. But a lot of people, they don't realize that your bottom is really when you refuse to suffer anymore.
Yeah.
Your bottom is when you refuse to suffer.
Yes.
And for me, I was suffering and I refused to suffer anymore. My bottom is going to be different than somebody else's bottom is different than somebody else.
And it is a choice.
At some points, there's choices we make. At other points, we are so overtaken that we need interventions and we need other help and we need things outside of ourselves. And I think that's important to say too, that there is help. There's people out there. There are services. There's always, always, always somebody or something that can help you. And we are resources for that. This is not an advertisement. This is sincere from us that if you're struggling with something, we'll get you to the right people. We're not the right people for everything. Nobody is, by the way. So with that, because this was, woo, got that off my chest. I am so glad that is over with. Whew. Oh, Jesus. I am literally I just needed to get through a few things. I need to get through a few things that we need to get out there. And then we're going to start doing some fun stuff.
Well, I think that was extremely brave of you. It's a tough subject to talk about. It's been a tough subject for many people to talk about because it's mostly full of disappointment, ugliness. And, you know, there are those who drink and they become happier and it doesn't bother anyone in their lives.
Or they understand moderation.
Or they understand
How
moderation.
about just moderation?
Yeah. But it is. Everybody's different. Everybody's tolerances are different. And, you know.
Do what works for your body.
Do what works for you and your body.
Yes. So we are on our next episode. Wow. Yeah, we are. Our next episode 7.
Yeah, next Friday.
It is. It's next Friday. And we are doing There's Disorder in This House.
What?
And it's called dyslexia. That's right. Next week, we're going to talk about dyslexia. Look, you never know. And then we're going to start debating. We decided it's just going to be us talking about fun stuff. We needed to get you some stuff out there so you'd know who we are, how we operate. Because after these next 1 or 2 episodes, it is where we turn it on to you guys. And we start going into some other content that we haven't done. Yeah. And it's not just about what we've gone through. But I think it's important for you guys to know that there's a reason that we have to unveil certain parts of us so that you really understand how we operate down the road. And you don't think we're just 2 people duking it out. Because guess what? We don't get along on all issues all the time.
I think we get along. We may disagree.
Or we don't. Yes, there we go. Yeah. We disagree often, and we do get heated. It does get very passionate, and we come from different sides of the tracks. Not disrespectful. No. So that's what we have to look forward to. Thank you, everybody. Yep. We're going to see you next week for There's Disorder in This House.
Wow. Real Southern lady. Then.
I love it. Is it? Yeah. I feel like a man, like an old man. Disorder.
No, keep it.
Like I
like it.
Like I have a big Colonel Sanders suit on.
Talk to me like that later.
Disorder in the house. Get yourself some Kentucky Fried Chicken.
Oh, Lord.
You want a drumstick? I don't know. A leg? A breast? All right. We're going to leave that there. All right, everybody. Thank you so much.
Mr. Spencer.
High five, Mr. Spencer. Thank you so much for listening to S&M Podcast. That was The Fall from Alcohol. If you learned anything, please share it. If you learned nothing, tell everybody. Get everybody to help us. Help us listen. We want to get our message out there, and we can't do it without you guys, and we're doing it organically.
Yes, and you can find us at our YouTube channel, S&M Podcast. It's all one string. And social media, as well as all streaming platforms for the audio podcast.
Most streaming platforms, yeah. There's always a few that, you know.
40 or 50
But if we're not on there, let me know. I'll get it on there. Right. Let me know. Let us know what you want. Let us know how you like it. And as we grow, we hope that we're helping you guys too.
This podcast is so full of innuendo.
Oh, my God. I didn't even know. Sean Spencer.
With that.
Not on the microphone.
Peace out.
All right. Love you guys.
Take care.
Boop, boop,
Thank
boop.
you.